Hello everybody, this is me Arpita Pal, your educator. I am here once again with another lesson in the course in which we are revising the modern Indian history from Spectrum. Today we will be discussing about the non-cooperation and Khilafat movement. Previously as well we have dealt with some important topics. So go through the previous videos as well in order to have a clear understanding of the topics. So let's begin. But before beginning, I have an important announcement for you all. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel Arpita Sharma Classes to have the daily Hindu news analysis, an analysis of important international organizations, daily MCQs beneficial for your prelims preparation, strategy classes for UPSC CSE, polity classes, economics classes and many more. You can press the bell icon and never miss an update. Also, Arpita Sharma ma'am is taking live plus courses on an Academy Plus platform. So you can use the code SHARMA20 and get 10% discount to reap the benefits. So let's begin. Now we have to discuss firstly in this lesson we will be discussing about the non-cooperation movement and Khilafat movement. But before beginning, it is important to know that what was the background which led to the development or which led to the starting of these movements. Why was the non-cooperation movement started, or what led to the beginning of the Khilafat movement? So firstly, the economic hardships. Now see, India during the 1990 or during the or the First World War era, after the First World War, the economic situation of India after the war was quite alarming, because there was inflation, there was rise in prices of the commodities, and production was decreasing, because obviously one has to accommodate in case of war, the needs are or the resources are to be distributed economically. Hence there was a decrease in the production of Indian industries as well, because taxes were increased, rents were increased and production was decreasing. So every section of the society was suffering because the Britishers had dragged India into the war, and hence it led to an anti-British attitude. Right, because naturally if a country that is ruling us is not able to satisfy our needs, then we would be definitely against the ruling party. Hence it led to an anti-British attitude. Secondly, the Rowlatt Act was a very mischievous and was a black act basically, which was also known by the name of Black Act, because martial law was imposed in Punjab and Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Everything basically exposed the brutal nature of the British government, that how brutal these people are, that they can go to any extent to satisfy their own needs, and hence they can exploit Indians and can be brutal towards Indians as well. So does this expose the brutal face, of the British. So basically the Monte-Chelmsford reforms, they were an eyewash, because Indians wanted self-government, but they did not talk about the same. Hunter Committee, which was to investigate the Punjab wrongs, was again an eyewash, because it did not investigate the same. It did not prove that okay, Britishers were brutal against Indians. Hence all these things resulted in an anti-British attitude, which resulted in a revolution. Because Indians soon realized that Britishers are not here to satisfy our needs, but to satisfy their personal interests, their greedy nature. Hence we understood that Britishers are against us, and now we have to rise against them. Now what was the Lucknow Pact in 1916? Now after the First World War, what happened? That it basically provided a ground for common political action by Hindus and Muslims. Right, common political ground, which was given by the Lucknow Pact. Because Congress, which also had Hindus and Muslims in it, they were together in case of Lucknow Pact. Also in case of Rowlatt Act education, Indian Hindus and Indian Muslims were together, they were not divided. Then in case of the radical Muslims were very much together, or they wanted to work together with Hindus so that a common goal is achieved. Then who were the radical Muslims such as Abul Kalam Azad, Hakim Ajmal Khan, Hasan Imam? They were more influential, and hence they were not much conservative like the Aligarh school elements who had dominated the Muslim League earlier. So the influence of radical Muslims was quite lot. Then the emergence of non-cooperation and Khilafat movement. All this led to the emergence of non-cooperation and Khilafat movement. Now, what was the Khilafat issue? Now, see, after the First World War, the Khalifa of Turkey was ill-treated by the British government, because Khalifa was the spiritual guru of Muslims, and hence he was treated with utmost respect. So, the ill treatment of Khalifa of Turkey after the First World War by the British agitated Indian Muslims as well, because they did not like that their spiritual head is being ill treated by the Britishers. Hence, in 1919, the Khilafat committee was formed under Ali brothers. Ali brothers were Shaukat Ali and Muhammad Ali, and also the ones who were responsible for forming the Khilafat committee were Maulana Azad, Ajmal Khan and Hasrat Mohani as well. Then this prepared a ground for countrywide agitation. A countrywide agitation started against the ill treatment of Khalifa of Turkey. Then soon, an All India Khilafat conference took place at Delhi in November 1919, which called for boycott of British goods. The president of All India Khilafat Committee during this conference was Mahatma Gandhi, and it also paved way for a nationwide mass movement. Now, the movement was not restricted to a particular area, but it paved way for a nationwide mass movement. Now, what was Congress's stand at this point? Basically, Bal Gangadhar Tilak did not want to have an alliance with Muslim leaders and was skeptical about the Satyagraha. So there were two reasons why Tilak opposed it. Firstly, he did not want to have an alliance with the Muslim leaders, and secondly, he did not believe in the force of Satyagraha. He thought that only some revolutionary measures should be taken against the British government, and this method of prayer and petition is not going to work, or Satyagraha is not going to work. So he was skeptical about Satyagraha as well. Then what were the realizations by Congress? They realized that it is a golden opportunity for Hindu and Muslims to unite, come together and fight against a common enemy. Also, they had lost all faith in constitutional struggle, because previously as well we have read about moderates and extremists, that moderates they were moving on the path of constitutional agitation and constitutional struggle, but they did not achieve much, and they had lost all faith in constitutional struggle. So also, the masses were eager to express their discontent against the British government, because initially masses were not very much involved in these revolutionary activities, but soon masses were also so much dissatisfied with the British government that they were eager to express their discontent. And an important part was that Muslim League also supported Congress. So it led to the unity or it led to Hindu-Muslim unity as well. The Khilafat and non-cooperation movement brought Hindus and Muslims together. Then in February 1920, Punjab wrongs and constitutional advance overshadowed by the Khilafat issue. Now, what does it mean? That Punjab wrongs, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre and the constitutional advancement was overshadowed by Khilafat issue. What was the Khilafat issue? The ill treatment of Khalifa of Turkey by the British government. Then in May 1920, the Treaty of Sevres with Turkey dismembered Turkey, and in June 1920, an all-party conference at Allahabad took place, which led to the boycott of schools, colleges, law courts, etc. It was to be led by Mahatma Gandhi. On August 31, 1920, the non-cooperation movement was officially launched. You must remember this date, it is important. 31st August 1920, non-cooperation movement was launched. And in September 1920, the objectives of non-cooperation movement were laid down. In December 1920, during the Nagpur session of Indian National Congress, non-cooperation movement was endorsed, and the main objective of the movement was declared as Swaraj. That it is the only demand of Indian people or the members of the Indian National Congress was Swaraj, which was to be attained through peaceful means via extra-constitutional mass struggle. Now, who all participated in these movements? Firstly, students. What did they do? They left the government schools. Around 800 national schools and colleges came up. they left the government schools which were being run by British government, and as a result national schools and colleges came up. Lawyers gave up their practices like C.R. Das, Saifuddin Kichlew, Jawaharlal Nehru, Vallabhbhai Patel, they all gave up their practice. Strikes were held at, for example, at Assam plantations, the steamer service they were organized at Assam Bengal Railways. This strike was led by J.M. Sengupta. Then locally, Awadh Kisan movement, Eka movement at UP, Mapila revolt at Malabar, and Sikh agitation at Punjab took place. Also, a no tax movement was started at Midnapur, Bengal, and Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. Ali brothers asked Muslims to resign from army as it was unreligious, because also Indians were very much ill treated in army. Hence, Ali brothers persuaded Muslims that we should leave, or you should resign from British army and lead the cause for Swaraj and join Hindus, and they should join Hindus in their movement. Then, what was the people's response to this movement? For example, the response of the middle class, the peasants, women, students, business class, they all participated in the movement. And what was the government response? The government soon realized that it is the Hindu-Muslim unity that is leading the movement. So they tried to divide Hindus and Muslims. Public meetings were banned and press was controlled. All leaders except Gandhi was arrested. During the last phase of movement, an incident at Chauri Chaura took place. On February 5, 1922, 22 policemen were burnt alive by the revolutionaries, which led to calling off of the movement by Mahatma Gandhi, because Mahatma Gandhi wanted to have a peaceful movement. He did not want to have a revolutionary movement, so he decided that now the movement was turning violent. Hence, he decided to call off the movement, because violence was never a weapon used by Mahatma Gandhi. Hence, in February 1922 at Bardoli, at Congress Working Committee's meeting, the movement was formally withdrawn. Now, there were several reasons why Mahatma Gandhi withdrew the movement. Firstly, the movement soon got exhausted. Now, any movement, if it is started, it is very difficult to keep it at a particular pace. After a particular time, the people soon get exhausted, and hence they are unable to lead the movement. Also, the government was not at all ready to negotiate. The government was very rigid in its stance, and hence the government was not ready to negotiate. Turkey, which was the main issue, the Khalifa's ill treatment, which was the main issue, Turkey soon became a secular state and had a legal system. So the whole issue which was being fought for vanished, and in 1924 the caliphate was abolished. So these were the reasons why Gandhi withdrew the movement. So I hope you have understood everything that is being taught, and in case you have any doubt, you can please post your comments in the comment section. I'll try my best to resolve your queries. Thank you.